In the headlines, the Chief Justice Roxane rules that the national vote recount is valid and must be used to declare the winner of the March 2 elections.
The Chief Election Officer shall, notwithstanding anything in any written law, be subject to the direction and control of the Commission.
Former House Speaker Ralph Ramzan says loans will dry up and other resources will be hampered if the international community imposes sanctions on Guyana. An activist of APNU is charged with threatening to kill the chairperson of GCOM. Proprietors say business is slow but thankful that the country is slowly reopening. With some 18 COVID-19 cases, Region 9 still continues to battle illegal crossings to and from Brazil. And in sport, Simmons reiterates call for batsmen to score hundreds as West Indies lose second test against England. With the news, I'm Avenash Ramzan. Thank you for joining us. We started by telling you that the Chief Justice Roxane on Monday ruled that the results of the national vote recount must be used to declare the results of the March 2 elections. She also ruled that the country's chief elections officer is not a lone ranger or a law unto his own and must do as he is directed by the Guyana Elections Commission, GCOM. The ruling means that the Chief Elections Officer, Keith Lowenfield, must prepare a report of the national vote recount that accurately represents a victory for the PPP and not APNU-AFC, as he had done before, using figures that were deemed to be fraudulent. The Chief Justice found that the national vote recount overtook the original vote count, and so any declarations made before were correctly set aside by Justice Claudette Singh, the chair of GCOM.
The Chief Election Officer shall, notwithstanding anything in any written law, be subject to the direction and control of the Commission. The fact remains that the circumstances surrounding the declaration of the results of the March 2, 2020 elections are contextual. As just concluded, given the decisions of the Court of Appeal and the CCJ, the recount cannot be considered to be invalidated, at least not at this point in time. In this context, the Section 84.1 declarations can no longer be considered useful. Hence, while the CEO may be expected to act independently, he cannot be a lone ranger, so to speak. I agree with the submission that Article 172(2)(b) can be construed to mean that GCOM is not to act on the advice of any person or body external to the Commission. I do not agree with the submission that the CEO has a constitutional mandate under Article 177(2)(b). It is the chairperson and GCOM that have the constitutional mandate. The CEO is a functionary of GCOM pursuant to Article 161A and Sections 2 and 7 of the RPA. Section 18, which is repeated in Order 60, merely confirms this and the obvious for the avoidance of doubt that the CEO cannot act on his own. In this regard, he has certain duties as regards tabulating results as provided for in Section 96 of the RPA. Section 18 is therefore not unconstitutional as being in conflict or in tension with Article 177. And as noted earlier, the CCJ also stated in paragraph 41 that any allegations as alluded to by the CEO can be addressed by way of election petition. If it is the considered opinion of the CEO that in the face of Order 60, he can produce a report based on the Section 84 declarations, then one would expect that he must be guided accordingly by GCOM. This, the evidence discloses, the chairperson has sought to do via the letters transmitted to the CEO. Thus, as determined by the CCJ, unless overturned by a court in an election petition, the only data that could be used for the declaration of the results of the elections would have to be the recount results or data. For the reasons outlined, the 10 declarations cannot be resurrected at this point in time. In this regard, there can no longer be an impasse between the chairperson and the CEO as to the effect of Article 177(2)(b) and Section 96. For the avoidance of doubt, as stated in Section 18, the CEO is subject to the direction and control of the Commission. In this regard, I refer to paragraph 14 of the CCJ judgment, where it is noted that by section 18, the CEO is, quote, mandated to be subject to the direction control of the commission.
Meanwhile, the government of President David Granger, who has repeatedly said he is not obstructing or interfering the work of the country's elections authority, is now moving to appeal a very clear decision of the High Court. Chief Justice Roxane George on Monday afternoon ruled that the national vote recount is valid and no other figures can be used to declare the results of the March 2 polls. The Chief Justice said the issues were all raised before and declared there must be an end to the constant moves to the court on issues already decided on. Granger's attorney, Basil Williams, that should be Granger's Attorney General, Basil Williams, pleaded that GCOM takes no action until an appeal is filed. The notice that an appeal will be filed was first made by one of Granger's candidates, Roysdale Ford. He acted as an attorney for Granger's coalition agent, Masinga Jones, who had moved to the court to get the recount nullified and for GCOM to use figures generated before the recount declarations were made. The Chief Justice ruled that the recount overtook previous declarations and those declarations cannot be resurrected and used. Kim Kite Thomas, attorney for Justice Claudette Singh, the chair of GCOM, told the court that Justice Singh would not act once the appeal is filed by Tuesday. The matter could end up all the way to the Caribbean Court of Justice, the Attorney General indicated, further delaying the declaration of the results. Leader of the new and united Guyana, ANUG, Ralph Ramkaran, has expressed concerns over looming economic sanctions if the declaration of the 2020 elections result is prolonged further. In his weekly blog, the former Speaker of the National Assembly said international funding will dry up while Guyana's relations with other countries will suffer if economic sanctions are imposed. Bibi Katoon reports.
Guyana on Monday entered its 20th week without a legitimate government in place following the March 2nd general and regional elections, with several court cases and other tactics used to prevent a declaration of the opposition People's Progressive Party as the winner of the elections, as shown by a national vote recount. The United States began to impose sanctions. Last week, the U.S. started by revoking the visas of key government ministers, officials of the Elections Commission, and others. Leader of the new United Guyana and former Speaker of the National Assembly, Ralph Ramkaran, in his weekly blog, noted that those sanctions will be expanded, and their impact will affect every Guyanese as they will hinder international funding and even prevent access to petroleum funds. Ramkaran said, and I quote, "International cooperation, including funding for projects, access to resources and loans will dry up. Guyana's relations with the OAS, the Commonwealth and CARICOM will be adversely affected. Oil resources will become inaccessible. This is the future that awaits Guyana and its people." End of quote. President David Granger in a statement expressed regret over the decision taken by the U.S., but members of the APNU-AFC have said the decision is aimed at instilling fear. The United Kingdom and Canada have also signaled their intention to impose similar sanctions against top government officials. The Permanent Council of the Organization of American States has scheduled a meeting for Tuesday where it will discuss Guyana's ongoing electoral process. Ramkaran pointed out, and I quote, "Guyana has achieved the dubious distinction of taking the longest time to announce elections results and of having the largest number of court cases concerning elections between the commencement of the voting and the declaration. Impatience is in the air," he said, referring to comments made by former Business Minister Dominic Gaskin, who called on his APNU-AFC colleagues to find a way out today. Gaskin last Friday evening said there is not a shred of evidence that the APNU-AFC coalition won the elections. Bibi Katoon, Newsroom.
We tell you now that Ryan Williams, an activist attached to a Partnership for National Unity, was on Monday charged with threatening to kill chairperson of the Guyana Elections Commission, Justice retired Claudette Singh. The 27-year-old of Silver City, Linden, appeared before Magistrate Wanda Fortune at Linden Magistrates Court and pleaded not guilty to the charge. He was charged under the Cybercrime Act for using a computer system to coerce, harass, intimidate, and humiliate. It is alleged that Williams on July 14, 2020 in Linden used his Facebook account via his computer system to threaten Singh and use violence towards her and members of her family. The magistrate, after listening to the case via a Zoom hearing, released Williams on $500,000 bail and adjourned the case to August 3, 2020. It is alleged that Williams used a fake Facebook profile under the name Rahim Rahman to post a status threatening to kill her and her family if she declared the opposition People's Progressive Party the winner of the March 2 elections. Rounds from the Guyana Police Force's Cybercrime Unit were able to trace the IP address back to Williams' computer. Williams was arrested at his Linden home and reportedly confessed to the crime under caution. A person who commits an offense under this section is liable on summary conviction to a fine of $5 million and to imprisonment for 3 years. Proprietors say business is slow but thankful that the country is slowly reopening, and a Venezuelan national is in custody for stabbing an 18-year-old gold miner to death. Those and more when the newsroom returns. After being closed for approximately 4 months as part of the COVID-19 measures, a number of non-essential businesses can now operate under Phase 3 of the country's reopening process. While noting that business is slow, operators express gratitude with the reopening of the economy. Isnella Patwa reports.
Despite a continuous surge in COVID-19 cases, the National COVID-19 Task Force has implemented Phase 3 of the scheduled reopening plan of the country. The government in mid-March shut down all borders and implemented a strict curfew with COVID-19 measures. This caused hundreds to be unemployed or laid off. Now under Phase 3 of the reopening, which commenced on July 18th, food services and restaurants are permitted to be open from 6 a.m. to midnight daily. Outdoor dining at restaurants is also permitted from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and private sector construction is permitted to resume, while clothing, shoes and bookstores are permitted to resume operations. It is mandatory to wear a face mask in public at all times. The newsroom spoke with Randy Chung, a clothing store owner on Robb Street, Georgetown. Mr. Chung did not wish to be on camera, but stated that business is slow.
People complaining that how they may get enough money, and when they come there, always like they'll come and ask for discount if we sell it presently now, right? Because of what we're going through.
Ronette Scott Hodge, who has been a clothes vendor on Regent Street for the past 8 years, said she is thankful to be able to vend again. She also did not wish to be on camera.
So far, you're getting to eat day to day. I'm thankful. We have a sink there that when the customer come, they wash their hands and we have hand sanitizer. Before they buy, we sanitize, and after they finish dealing with the money, we sanitize after.
The 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew has been extended to 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. However, the curfew will only take effect on weekends in Regions 5 and 6. In Muruka Region 1, Aranca and Arangay in Region 7, the 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. curfew continues. These communities have recorded an alarming number of COVID-19 cases. Reporting for the newsroom, I am Isnella Patwo.
We tell you now that police are investigating the murder of an 18-year-old named Shadrach Martin, a miner of Aishalton, South Rupununi Region 9, who was stabbed to death by a 16-year-old Venezuelan national during an argument over a girl at a birthday party. The incident occurred just after midnight on Saturday at Marudi Bagdam in Region 9. Newsroom understands that the teenagers were at a shop at Marudi Bagdam celebrating the birthday of a female bartender who works at the shop. While drinking, the two men had an argument over a girl who was at the party, during which the Venezuelan national pulled out a knife from his waist and stabbed Martin to the upper right chest. Martin was pronounced dead on arrival at the Aishalton Hospital. The suspect was arrested and the murder weapon was found at the scene. The Demerara Harbour Bridge will be closed for 6 hours on Saturday night into Sunday morning to facilitate the changing of a steel beam which was damaged during an accident in 2019. According to General Manager of the Demerara Harbour Bridge Corporation, Ralston Adams, the repairs will be done during the curfew period from 10 p.m. on Saturday to 4 a.m. on Sunday.
We are closing because we got some structural maintenance to do. We have to change a transom, and that's one of the transoms that got damaged when the pontoon hit the bridge. So we're now changing out that transom. We had to brought the bridge in alignment. We did some anchorage work. We did some of the deck plates. We had some welding done. We did all the other maintenance work, and now we're going to change the transom.
We tell you now that a 25-year-old gold miner was sentenced to serve 14 years imprisonment on Monday for fatally stabbing his fellow workmate during a heated argument in 2019 at their campsite at Frenchman Bagdam, Mabura in Region 10. Imran Daniels, formerly of Northwest District, was sentenced by High Court Judge Brassington Reynolds during a hearing held via Zoom. Daniels was initially charged with the murder of 19-year-old Alex Daniels, but last month he opted to plead guilty to the lesser count of manslaughter. He admitted that on February 14, 2019, he unlawfully killed Alex, who resided at Swan Village, Soestdijk-Linden Highway. On Monday, the judge started Daniels' sentence at a base of 20 years and made deductions based on his early guilty plea and other mitigating factors. In the end, Daniels was sentenced to serve 14 years imprisonment. Reports indicate that on the day in question, the two minors were at a shop imbibing at Frenchman Landing, and while they were returning to their camp, Daniels threw away Alexis' slippers, and this led to an argument. At the camp, Daniels armed himself with a knife and dealt Alex 2 stabs, one to the chest and another above his right hip. Still ahead on the newsroom, with some 18 COVID-19 cases, Region 9 still continues to battle illegal crossings to and from Brazil. With a rise in COVID-19 cases within the last few days in Region 9, the authorities are continuing to call for a heavy army and police presence at the border between Brazil and Guyana. The total confirmed cases in the region rose to 18 at the weekend. This is worrying as the authorities in the region say the health sector is now overwhelmed. Isnel Patwa reports.
The majority of the recorded COVID-19 cases in Region 9 are imported cases from Brazil. On July 19th, the region recorded a total of 18 cases. Letem, along with 4 indigenous villages in Central, North and South Rupununi, have recorded cases. Regional Chairman Brian Alicock spoke with the newsroom via telephone on Monday and pleaded for assistance from the Guyana Police Force and the Guyana Defense Force to assist with the situation. The illegal border crossing between Guyana and Brazil continues to stretch and challenge the resources in Region 9. Brazil's COVID-19 outbreak is one of the world's most severe, with more than 2 million cases and 79,000 deaths. The regional chairman highlighted that they are now working with the Brazilian police, but the illegal crossings continue.
Our security is overwhelmed. Our nurses and doctors are overwhelmed at this time, because it's a large region, the largest in the country, and when we have cases coming out from the north, when we have cases coming out from the south, and then we have 2 cases coming out in central, these are the things that, would tell on our people.
You
and
said there was
The thing is, the Brazilians said they are trying on their side. We need more manpower in terms of man service, security, and military. We have a few down here, but that is not enough.
The region is expected to see more cases as a number of persons in quarantine are awaiting test results.
And we are doing more testing. We are awaiting results and so. So we have people under home quarantine too. And we have systems set up where the medical personnel would check on those people in the home quarantine and look at their condition and so, and monitor them. So it's difficult for us because of the distances from the main hospital.
Alicock noted that friends and families have been aiding with the illegal border crossings, and the Regional Health Emergency Committee now has a team educating persons in the villages about how dangerous this is.
I have personnel, the public health personnel, pleading to the people on a daily basis, because when a loved one dies, you don't see them back because they're wrapped in plastic and body bags and in the coffin. So, she's, continuously pleading with the people, our people here. I support them in terms of pleading with our people to take things in hand, try to control, observe the rules and regulation that is meted out.
3 persons were arrested recently in Letem for attempting to smuggle 9 Brazilian nationals into Guyana. Letem's first confirmed COVID-19 case was recorded on May 12th. The patient, identified as Hamlet De Silva, entered Guyana via an illegal crossing. Donna Ambrose Greaves, the mother of a 7-year-old boy, was recorded as Guyana's 15th COVID-19 death and the first for Letem on July 5th. Reporting for the newsroom, I am Isnel Patwo.
And High Court Judge Brassington Reynolds on Monday sentenced the 43-year-old farmer to 7 years imprisonment for the offense of manslaughter following his early guilty plea. Charles Leonard, known as Spoon of Port Kaituma, had confessed on June 29 to bludgeoning Romel Govaya to death with a piece of wood for eating his wild meat and cassava bread. The incident occurred between October 5 and 6, 2017 at Leonard's house in Port Kaituma. During a sentencing hearing, which was held via Zoom on Monday, a probation report was read and indicated that Leonard expressed remorse for his actions, but noted that he was provoked by the victim. The probation officer noted that Leonard and Govaya were victims of alcohol abuse that led to tragic consequences. Newsroom understands that the victim lived with Leonard and his wife at Port Kaituma. It is alleged that Leonard was intoxicated and saw Govaya in the kitchen eating his wild meat with cassava bread. He became angry, picked up a piece of wood and lashed Govaya to the head. Govaya was discovered lying on the kitchen floor in a motionless state by Leonard's wife. The matter was reported to the police and Leonard was arrested. We now bring you an update on Guyana's COVID-19 cases from the Ministry of Public Health.
Now for an update of the situation in Guyana. To date, the total number of tests done is 5,023. The total number of persons tested being 3,769, and 3,432 of those persons being negative. As of the 20th of July 2020, of the 84 tests done, there has been one new case, bringing the number of positives to 337, with 19 COVID-related deaths. The number of active cases in institutional isolation is 155. 15 persons are in institutional quarantine, and 2 persons are in the COVID ICU. Fellow Guyanese, 163 persons have recovered, which is encouraging, but regrettably, our management of confirmed cases remains a formidable hurdle. Our cases continue to climb, and since July 12th, we have detected 42 new cases, with many of the new cases reported in regions 1 and 9. I will present you with a breakdown of cases and deaths in some of the regions. The hotspots in region 1 are Maruka and Mabaruma. In region 7, Aranka, Bartica, and Sulphur Rose. In region 8, Itabak and Madia. And in region 9, Letham. Friends, our relaxation of measures is in effect, and I wish to address those who are returning to work on rotation. It is suggested that all workplaces, private and public, appoint a focal point for COVID-19, who will be responsible for ensuring that all employees adhere to the workplace guidelines and that sensitization training sessions are regularly organized for staff. These are suggested occupational safety and health measures that can be taken to protect all employees. Similarly, the ministry is urging schools that are scheduled to reopen for the new academic year to begin thinking and drawing up a comprehensive plan to mitigate the spread of the coronavirus in our schools. Identifying focal points with the responsibility mentioned above will also be useful, as well as a joint committee between parents and teachers to ensure that the safest school environment is created before our students return to school.
When the Newsroom returns, the financial, weather, and bridge reports along with sports. Stay tuned.